Here we go. Jeremy, this is such a special series for you. I can't though decide if Leslie is a pessimist or an optimist, little of both. How did they describe him?
I don't think he's been pinned down as one or the other, but I think generally finds a way to get some clarity or some truth, and sometimes it's a little bit on the nose. For example, when he talked about Beard's girlfriend, I think in the second season he was out on a limb with that one, although I think he was probably right. But I think generally he's on the positive side. Yeah, I'd like to think.
So far, we've seen so many incredible episodes this season. The jazz one has to be a personal standout for you. Was that something that was written for your forte and you were surprised when you read the script? Or did they approach you and say, hey, we'd like to do this little feature on Leslie? Start practicing your cello again.
Uh, yeah, double bass or stand-up bass, as you guys call it. Cello's between the legs and is in front of you like that. But no, yeah, it was the latter. It was like Brendan texted me and said, "Do you think you can lead a band?" And I said, "Well, it depends on the key and the tempo." So gave me the song, and I worked on it probably every day for about 2 months. Before I knew what the actual scene was, before I got the script, I knew it was going to be that number and the kind of Chet Baker version of it. Yeah. So that was very, very, it was very, and it was totally applicable and feasible that that scene should be in that episode, which is a love letter to the city, of course, and that's where, as you may or may not know, that Ted Lasso was kind of begun. With when Brendan and Jason were doing improv sports out there, and that's how it all started. So yeah, it's a very, very, it's like the blueprint of the show is in there, and yeah, my favorite episode so far.
It was lovely to see you and Charlie team up for that episode. It was a
Yeah.
special moment. It's nice to see Leslie out of the office a little bit more. I think those are the more special moments when we see them, as we saw at his family and they enjoyed Christmas. And that's one of the more touching episodes I think that people continue to lean on and go back to when it comes to Ted Lasso. What are other episodes, or maybe is that the one that people tend to reach out to you the most about?
For me, they do a lot, yeah. But people love Make Rebecca Great Again, which I wasn't really in. That's a fan favorite. But yeah, a lot of people. It was the when we did an Emmy sort of FYC thing the other day. That was the first one that was called out when people said, "What's your favorite episode?" and people said that the Christmas one. So yeah, that's a great, written by Joe Kelly, is again one of the founders of the show. It's full of heart, yeah, and some great comedy too.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we haven't seen enough of the Diamond Dogs together this season. Will we be finding them reunited in the next coming episodes and woofing together in the near future?
But yeah, if you go and watch the latest episode, you will see a whole lot of barking and woofing by grown men who should know better. Yeah. um, yeah, basically, I can say it now because that episode is out there. Yes. With, a new member as well. So, yeah.
Well, I started by asking you if Leslie was an optimist or a pessimist because we always see him sort of leaning over Rebecca, telling her the bad news or the harsh truth of what's going on. Talk about those moments when you're working with Hannah Waddingham.
Well, we enjoy working together immensely. I could, whenever I get a scene, with her. I get very excited because there's there's just such a lot going on in the relationship because they have a quite a big history. Hannah is just such fun to work with, and that the balance of power has changed a little bit, but it's more that there is still a kind of she's the boss ultimately. So yeah, and she has great rhythm and musicality in her comedy, and we usually sort of with the first reading of any scenes, it usually works straight away. Um, and I often wish that they filmed the camera rehearsal, to be honest, because it just works straight away. But of course, there's a lot of finessing on the show, so which is all for the good. So stuff does get changed, yeah. But yeah, yeah, she's an absolute delight.
Well, speaking of comedic timing, you're quite well at it yourself. Is that something that you've always had a knack for, or something you've honed over the years?
Well, I love comedy, and comedy and music. That's my bag. And I've done a lot of comedy on stage, and I've done a lot of comedy on TV. And I suppose somebody would say that if something isn't funny, then I will inevitably make it funny somehow, by force of will. But no, I love comedy, and I love American comedy in particular, and it's something I've always wanted to do is be in an American comedy, for years. I led a sitcom in my late 30s, and it nearly happened then because they did two pilots of the show in America, and they tried to get me to play the lead over there. Um, but I was working, I was doing other things. So, but this is the story of my life so far, and this is how it's worked out. And who knew I would be in one of this epic show? It's incredible.
Along those lines, then, this is rumored to be maybe the final season of Ted Lasso. What has it meant to you to be a part of such a special series that have touched the lives of so many people?
It really hits home when you meet people and they're very respectful. I was saying the other day to a friend that the commonality of what people do is they put their hand on their heart when they come and say, how much they love the show, and they say it brings me joy, and I've noticed that's a real pattern that people do that. Um, so it's very humbling, really, because at the end of the day, you're just working on some scripts in a room somewhere, but you're working with really really great people and who are just the highest level, extending the language of comedy television. Um, but at the end of the day, you just get on with it, and it's a task, and then it's all put together, and people are knocked out by it. It's just it's one of the most surprising things in my life, because I have been in many things that have done reasonably well. I suppose most things are, uh, they get some kind of mediocre reception, but nothing like this ever. So it's a first.
What's next for you then? Have you been busy working on any other projects outside of here, Ted Lasso?
I've got some things that I can't quite talk about, unfortunately. But I did a little part. I have my green card now, so I can work in the States, and I did a Disney film in Atlanta uh, called Descendants 4. And I've done a voiceover for playing a dog in a film called 10 Lives. And there's another big project which I can't talk about. There's also my music. I've released an album, and the second single from that album is coming out soon. So I'm very happy to be doing that. And the album is called Songs of Escape and Endless Night. And I'm very, very, very pleased with it, I have to say.
where can people go online then to explore more of your music?
It's on all the platforms, including YouTube. So yeah, Spotify, iTunes, all of them things.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the incredible work you do on our screens?
Wow, I would just say thank you very much. I really appreciate that you've watched the show and taken to it so much. I do too. I often forget, because some episodes I'm not, I maybe only in one scene or something, and then I forget that I'm sort of in it and I'm just taken with the stories and the show myself. It's a privilege for me to be in it, and yeah, thank you for watching.